Hi everyone, Glenn here again from Alter Egos. Before we get started this week, just another quick update regarding the podcast. Uh, Recently, Critical Encounters committed a quick strike against us, and it was a lot of fun, and it was great to work with those guys with the various spoilers for Rise of Red Skull. But we also recently managed to get Steve on for a recording of a modular set review, which is this episode. We're going to take a look at the Ronin modular set, and we just wanted to clarify that our Hulk Hero Pack review is still coming. It's just taking a little bit longer to edit, and so that will be coming probably at the start of next week. Yeah, so the schedule's going to change slightly, but there's just a lot of content we want to get through before the Rise of Red Skull launches, and we kind of have a slight reset with the podcast. Yeah, so upon the reset of the podcast, so we'll have Season 3 commencing. And I think that's when we're going to really be launching Honorary Deck again. We know that was something that a lot of players seemed to enjoy previously, and we really want to build back a lot of the deck building in a new and engaging way. And really what that's going to mean is that we're going to have a podcast episode dedicated to it at least once a fortnight. And then on top of that, we want to really present it on YouTube as well, so that there's a physical reference to the deck so that people can see what cards we're talking about as we go through why we're building the decks we are. Yeah, hopefully that will be a lot of fun, and thank you again for listening. And again, it was great to be able to collaborate with another content creator this week. So without further ado, enjoy this episode about the Ronin modular set, and thanks once again to Steve from Critical Encounters. Well, welcome back everyone to Alter Egos, a Marvel Champions podcast by Fantasy Flights Games and designed by Michael Bobbs and Caleb Grace. I'm your host Glenn. With me this week is Steve from Critical Encounters. Steve, how's it going this afternoon?
It's doing great. Glad to be on. Thanks for having me.
No worries. I thought I'd point out before we get started that there are no heroes on this podcast. There's an alter ego and there's a villain, but we don't have any heroes in the building. So I hope you're comfortable with that.
I love it. That's great. Who needs those heroes?
Yeah, so you're from Critical Encounters, a fantastic podcast that really focuses more, I guess, on the encounter side. But do you want to just really tell everyone about what you're doing over at Critical Encounters and where people can find you?
Sure. Like you said, I'm one of the hosts for Critical Encounters, podcast for Marvel Champions. My buddy Daniel and Mustafa are my co-hosts, and we focus on the encounter sets. We look at the Nemesis sets, the encounter sets, the villain sets. We do try to keep the episodes somewhere around a half an hour. Sometimes they go a little longer. We try to get into the history or the origin stories of the minions and the villains, and then we take a deep look at the villain cards or the encounter cards, how they play and why FFG hates the villains. They're always getting beat up by those heroes, so we have a good time. We try to look at things as if we're the villains, but it's a lot of fun. You can find us, Critical Encounters, on pretty much every podcast player. We're on Facebook. We have a Discord channel on the Marvel Champions Monthly Community Discord. And that's us.
Great. Yeah, I hope some people can go and find you. I really enjoy the episodes that you guys put out. What was your most recent one on? Was it Baron Mordo? Is that what you guys are doing next? Is that what I'm looking forward to?
Yeah. I don't know when this episode is going to air, but we've recently had a issue released on Yanrog, Taskmaster, and Baron Mordo. So we're working our way through all those newer sets. So we're having a good time with them.
Yeah, and I'm sure you'll like in the gig economy, so to speak, I'm sure you'll have a lot more content once there's a campaign box with 5 scenarios and a bunch of modular sets and new Nemesis sets. You guys will be kept quite busy, I'd feel.
Yeah, we're looking forward to that. We just finished the core set with Yanrog. That was our last review, and we still haven't really gotten into Green Goblin. himself. We've done all the modular sets out of there, but so we've got a lot of content in this great game. Even with the delays, we've still had a lot of fun, and we've been having a good time playing, and we haven't had too much of a content drought for us, at least.
Yeah, you guys seem to have paced it probably the best, I think, of everyone. But so I've basically kidnapped you away from your regular crew to do a little bonus feature on the Kree Fanatic modular set that came as a print and play. How do you feel about the fact that you're here on Alter Egos talking about it?
I'm happy to be here. You guys do a great show. I love listening to you guys, so I'm happy to escape from my regular villains and hang out with you and do a little look at it from a different side of things, maybe. So
I'm if I gave you the backstory on Ronan the Accuser, it would be I saw him in Guardians of the Galaxy, the first one. That's about all you're gonna get. It's about all you're gonna get from me. So you might know a little bit more about the one and only Ronan. But why don't we just dive into it? So the Kree Fanatic modular set came with 7 cards, 5 unique ones, with 2 doubles of the 2 treacheries. How do you feel overall in terms of what this modular set provides to the game, and what do you think of the model of print and play?
I like this set. This is a fun set, ramps up the difficulty, and I love that it is print and play. I like free stuff. As a villain, if I can get my hands on something and I have to pay for it, that's great. So give me more print and play sets. I think it was really nice, too, that since FFG wasn't able to be at Gen Con and give us Kang, I believe, was supposed to be at Gen Con. We weren't able to get physical stuff and be at a physical con. There were all those virtual cons going on, the League of Cooperative Gaming, the virtual Gen Con, that gave us virtual cards. So I think that was really nice of FFG to do that for the community.
Yeah, I definitely think it was positive all round. And I thought maybe as a true villain, you may have tried to get it printed at work rather than in your home office. Is that true?
It's definitely true. We have a real nice laser printer at work. It is some card stock. It came out at work, but only one guy at work listens to this stuff, so I'm okay. He's in my play group. We're safe. I'm safe.
Yeah, I'm glad. Yeah, I agree. It was a fantastic decision, I think, by them to, one, take some initiative and kind of present this content. We'd seen it previously for Arkham Horror, the living card game. And I was really surprised that it jumped across to Marvel, because I thought maybe the licensing would have been an issue. But they've seemed to make it work, and it's awesome to see. And I think what was presented has been received exceptionally well, just because of I guess what this modular set is bringing to the game, and really I guess it's appealing in particular to a certain part of the fan base that had felt that there was still some room for an additional challenge beyond heroic. But I think this modular set is actually quite accessible to any degree of player skill or comfortability with the game. How would you feel about the overall difficulty of this set?
Well, it's no bomb scare. It definitely is, I think, a little more difficult than some. I mean, Ronan himself is pretty powerful, and the boosts are really nice in this. They're all doing something good. I think it adds some difficulty to the game, but in a fun way. Unlike maybe, not a huge fan of heroic. We've talked about it a few times on our show. It's kind of like a blunt instrument. It's more difficult, but I don't know if I enjoy that level of difficulty. But this one, I definitely do. It feels a little more organic of a difficulty increase.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
I totally agree with you that I don't know how publicly I've made it, but I really dislike what heroic does to the game, and I think it kind of almost goes against the ethos of what the game's about in a way. But I understand that it's there for people that choose to engage in it, and so that, that's great for that player base. But like you, I think the fact that there's so many boost abilities on these cards makes it a very memorable modular set that actually sees a lot of interaction throughout a scenario, and we haven't really seen that as much from some of the other modular sets. And I think that's what makes this stand out a bit more.
Yeah, I mean, every card has a boost ability, which is really cool. So
yeah. So what you're telling me is that as an alter ego and potentially a hero, I should be running target acquired in my decks. But as a villain, you're gonna tell me I shouldn't be doing that.
You got it.
Fair enough. All right. Well, let's dive in a little bit more. So, like I said, this has 7 cards, the Kree Fanatic modular set. And we'll start with Ronan the Accuser, who is a 9 health per player. That is right, 9 health per player. 3 scheme, 3 attack, Accuser Corpse Elite Kree traded with the keyword toughness. And he has a constant ability that says Ronan the Accuser cannot be stunned. With a forced interrupt, when the villain phase begins, Ronan the Accuser engages the hero with the fewest remaining hit points. He also has a boost ability, which is put Ronan the Accuser into play, engage with you, and he doesn't have any boost icons. He just has the star. What are your initial impressions of this dastardly villain?
He's great for the villains. I mean, he's awesome. But then you get to play him and you're like, 9 health per player. Oh my goodness. So that's almost as much, as the villains. So he's like a mini boss, to like give it video game terms or whatnot. You can't stun the guy. So all those janky stun lock decks, that's not going to help you any. Toughness, so a little bit extra there. I mean, he's a true threat. 3 scheme, 3 attack. I do like his forced interrupt. He's going to bounce around. He's going to, in a multiplayer game at least, he's going to move from player to player. You have to kind of pay attention to your health. But, he's only moving to the hero. So if someone's in alter ego, he's not going to, you're kind of safe there at least. But yeah, he's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I would say that they haven't really pushed as much of the, I guess, multiplayer angle on a lot of their encounter cards. Like often the card is not each player; it's usually just targeted towards the player that drew the card, which is fine. It gives like a unique experience. But there are cards like I think Hail Hydra is one. There's some of the drone cards in Ultron's deck where like it triggers for each player and it creates a really memorable experience, I feel. And like this adds to that because you have this minion that's going around the board hunting down the weakest link. It's kind of a bit low. What do you call it? Like it's a bit low ball of him. Like he's just picking on the guy that's already kicked down. But I guess that's
yeah. He's rubbing salt in the wound. Yep. He goes after the low-hanging fruit. So
yeah, that's exactly right. I guess something to point out is one, we've never seen. I don't think we've seen a minion that cannot be stunned before, and so like you said, that kind of transforms how the status cards are influencing a game a little bit. But also, his 9 health per play is a really interesting point where it's very rare, I think, outside of maybe Spider-Man and Iron Man, that you can clear him the turn he comes out. I think it's very difficult. Do you find that's a enjoyable experience where like he is going to linger around for that additional turn or two? Or like, what do you think about the 9 health per player?
Yeah, as a villain, I like the 9 health per player. So even in solo, he's going to have the most out of any minion. You can't swinging web kick him and take him out by himself. You need to put something into that. And then when you get into a multiplayer situation, and we just played a 3-player game, and he's got 27 health, and Claw only has 12 per player. You have to decide, what do we do about Ronan? Do we go after him? Do we not go after him? Is it worth the energy and the resources or not? That 3 attack where he's going to bounce around at us. So it gives you some decision points to make as a group. What are we going to do about him?
Yeah, and I think I also quite like that his boost ability kind of delivers the damage in a packet of 3 afterwards. You know how like basically if he had the 3 boost icons, he'd be dealing just a higher pack. The villain would be dealing a higher packet of damage to someone that has like a toughness, a tough status token. Whereas because it's a packet of 3, like there is going to be 3 damage getting through to you probably because you've already either defended or you got the tough token off the villain activation, and then Ronan bashes through for 3.
Yeah, that's it's nice because he's going to come out during that. Maybe the villain during the villain's attack, and then he's out, so he gets to swing at you again. So, yeah, I like that he's coming out.
Yeah. There's very little ways outside of target acquired to stop him coming out of play at some point during your game, particularly in multiplayer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I think he's really good, and like you said, there's no hero event outside of a skillful repulsor blast. I guess is the only way a solo player can clear him with one card. I think I like that. That's how it's done. I think he should just be this thing that sticks on the table, and you have to really work for him to leave.
So have you played with this set yourself?
Yes, yeah. I've played. I don't count all my games. I'm going to say 15 to 20. I've played with him. And
do you find that you're leaving him out, or do you find you're going after him?
If I'm playing two-handed, I'll go after him. I think it's a bit easier to like find a way to deal damage across, two turns, sometimes three. But in solo, I often just load my deck with a few more allies, and then I'm the darkest timeline hero. All my friends, one way or another, are getting sacrificed to the encounter deck, the encounter deck abilities.
Yeah, that's what allies are for. So.
Yeah, sometimes I just think it's hard to sell this game because I just view it as like a darkest timeline thing. Like there's that card like Great Responsibility where like you take damage equal to the threat placed, and I'm just like, what is this like self-harm mechanics that are going on in this game? Like I don't want to do this as a hero. I want to help the people. I don't want my friends dying next to me while I try to save the day. I want to work together, but they magically come back to life, and I magically can heal. So I guess the theme gets returned in a wholesome way.
Yeah, you have to think of it as not being killed; they're just temporarily defeated. Then they go back to their alter egos and then heal up and come back. So
yeah, it's like issue 2 and then issue 5, like the return.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you? When you've been playing with him, have you been keeping him on the board, or is he going back into the discard pile?
Typically, if it seems like I'm killing him off once, if he comes up early, and then if he comes up later when I'm on that second round of the villain, I might leave him and try to focus on just killing off the villain now because I'm further along in the game instead of putting 9 or 27 resources into damage. I'll target the villain with that. But early game, or if he comes up and I'm still on the first stage of the villain that we're playing, if it's 1 or 2, then we'll take him out. Specifically, if we get the accused card out on the table as well.
So I mean, we can talk about the accused now, which is a attachment condition. It has the text attached to your ally. Force interrupt: when an enemy initiates an attack against the attached identity, that enemy gets +1 attack for that attack, and it has a force response. After running the accuser is defeated, discard this card with a boost ability that says attached to your identity, and it has no boost icons again. Do you want to talk a little bit about how this card kind of adds to your experience when playing?
Yeah, this is interesting because a lot of times it feels like the cards will give a specific minion or villain a boost. Rhino's horn, South Sound body, the whole set from under attack. A certain specific villain gets more powerful. This one is attaching to you, your hero or alter ego, and then you become more vulnerable to everything attacking you. So it's slightly different take on that. So it does, I think, change the dynamics slightly. Where a minion is, or who's a villain and who's defending, that sort of stuff. So I like that. This is a little bit of a different tweak, and it really changes the dynamics.
Yeah, the most problematic place I've found this is both in Mutagen Formula and in Ultron, the Ultron scenario. Having drones that have +2 attack is have a base of 2 attack is quite problematic. It's a lot harder when they're getting that chip damage through, and you can't like energy barrier the full amount of damage back with just one energy barrier.
Yeah, and then it's a force interrupt, so the enemy initiates the attack. They get the boost, so it doesn't matter who defends for you. It could be your partner at the table, but that +1 has already been triggered. So there's that dog I was talking about.
Which is great because I think thematically it's sort of like the villain's like accused, and they immediately swing in at at you, but then your friend can jump in the way, but you're still suffering like the rage and the like the connotations of that attack that was started. So yeah, it's quite a thematic card, I felt, and I like that you can't just clear it until you kill Ronan.
Yeah, and that's one of those reasons where I'll go after him too. But it does feel like we just killed Ronan, and then this card shows up, right? The deck shuffle is always the wrong order. So
yeah, and I guess not that I've played 4-player in a while because of lockdown, but
sure.
in 4-player, I would presume that this probably stays on the table a lot more because 36 damage into Ronan seems like a lot when you could be dealing that towards the villain.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and so I guess Ronan also comes with a really interesting side scheme, Judge, Jury, and Executioner, which has a force response after a friendly character is defeated by an enemy attack, place 2 threat on the main scheme. It has an acceleration token, and the boost ability puts this side scheme into play. It has 3 threat per player and doesn't have any boost icons like a lot of the other 2 cards that we've talked about so far. How do you feel about this side scheme, and what does it feel like losing your friends to gain value on the main scheme? Yeah,
this one is tricky because it's one of those you got to be paying attention so you don't miss that response. I think our first time through, we played a game and it's like, wait, oh, somebody died, go back. Oh, threat goes on. So like it adds a little bit of complexity, not a lot, but you just got to be aware that it's there. And I found that when this was out, we were blocking with our allies a lot less, and we were using them up because it says defeated by an enemy attack. So if you just thwart with them and they die by consequential damage, that threat's not going out there. So we were kind of like killing our guys off or not using them to defend with until we could get rid of this, just because sometimes threats can be razor's edge in certain scenarios, especially with the acceleration icon also added to it.
Yeah, and 3 per player is a more challenging one to clear because even in 2-player, like a card like For Justice or a lot of the hero signature cards that can thwart don't deal up to 6. So often you'd have to use an event and then use your basic thwart as well. But I think you've hit the nail on the head there where it's interesting to kind of be reminded of what the intention behind allies, I guess, kind of was or feels like it should have been, where everyone's using them up fully and you're getting the full value from their abilities. And that can present some quite enjoyable experiences, I think, compared to the min-max optimized sort of play pattern that has evolved over the game. And obviously this card clearly disrupts that, probably intentionally so. So it's a great thing that they've added it to the game.
Yeah, like I said, we just played with this in the 3-player game, and I'm going to defend. Oh wait, if I defend, 2 threat goes there, and then what's that going to do? Because then if he's going to scheme when he comes against you, no, I can't do that. I can't defend. I'm going to have to just take the damage, or I have to defend with my hero. So it does again create more choices, and choices I think are good for the game.
Yeah, it creates an interesting decision point. It's interesting you mentioned about, like, I guess the cognitive load of the card as to, is it easy to remember? I do wonder sometimes in the higher player counts if like there's a lot going on. Like let's say you had like an environment and then like 3 side schemes that had abilities. I feel like sometimes it can get a bit much, but I think partially it's probably why this is a print and play. I would presume, like. Because if you have the accused out and this side scheme and then Ronan, like that's 3 additional triggers you have to think about a lot of the time. I think sometimes it can get a bit much, but like you said, maybe playing it multiple times, you get familiar with them. But certainly the first few times we forgot a few triggers like your group did.
It's like any game. Once you played it once, or it's not so bad. We also sometimes tend to read a card once and then remember it, but remember it wrong. If that's ever happened. And then you go back and read it, and you're like, oh, wait, it does this? So this is one of those ones where you're like, it's new. I got to read it. Let's make sure we're doing what it's supposed to be doing. Defeated by an enemy attack, not just dies or not just removed from the board or something like that. And that caught us a couple times right when we first played it the first time. So reading, it's half the battle. So
yeah, it's like, and then once you start just looking at the art of the card, but then you realize that there's like an edge case mentioned on the card itself that you always forgot. It's like, oh, there's this edge case for if this happens, and now this is relevant. Or I forgot this was the thing.
yep.
Yeah. So reading is half the battle, as you said. Well, we can move on to something that the heroes can interact with, which is the treacheries. So this Kree Fanatic modular set comes with 2 treacheries. The first one being Bring the Hammer Down. It has a when revealed ability. Ronin the Accuser activates against the player he is engaged with. If Ronin the Accuser is not in play, this card gains Surge. And it has a boost ability. If this activation defeats a character, deal the first player 1 face down encounter card. It has a star icon and 3 boost icons. What are your first impressions of this card, Steve?
This is great if you're the villain. This is a not so good if you just chump blocked with one of your little guys and this comes up and he died, right? It's got that as a boost. I'm thinking as a boost. You chump block, you get a boost. It's like a surge sort of for boost cards, which is kind of neat. But in multiplayer, maybe you're not the first player, so your buddy gets the face down card, not you. So what do you care?
yeah. There is. I do like that. There's a reference to like the first player. They've done that in other games, and so that, that's an enticing sort of part of the card. The 3 boost icons is probably what interests me most about this card. Is that it kind of escalates the scenario where like an advance or a scheme can be boosted by +3. It kind of makes those cards like foiled a bit better. And what is it? Preemptive strike.
Yep.
Those cards get a bit more interesting if you wanted to tech against this modular set.
Yeah, the 3 boost is always fun for the villains to have. Not so great for the heroes.
The card name as well is great. I like the idea, that it's the minion activating and not the villain. It's a really unique card, I feel.
Yeah, and he's not just attacking. So if he is engaged with an alter ego, he will still scheme. So it's like an assault / advance just for Ronin. And they got their bases covered. If he's not out, it surges, so it's not a wasted card.
Yeah, like I think the best thing about this modular set is that it still advances the cycle of the encounter deck, which I think for Marvel Champions is actually a really important thing to be doing with modular sets or like design. If you can have the deck consistently cycling, it means that the experience you're getting is more consistent because you're seeing more cards more frequently because you're going through the deck at a regular pace.
Right.
Yeah, sort of like how Heroic 1 kind of makes Rhino really interesting because even in solo, getting 2 cards makes the deck feel more consistent from a villain perspective, because you're more likely to find the activators and the key cards that Rhino needs to use to win. Looking at it from your side of the board with the villains.
Yeah.
So there's only one more card. It's You Dare Oppose Me. I don't have a good Ronin voice, so there is a question mark at the end of that. I just read it as is. When revealed, discard the top 5 cards of the encounter deck. Each time a card belonging to the Kree Fanatic set is discarded this way, deal that card to yourself as a face-down encounter card. It also has a boost ability. If this activation is an attack, that attack gains overkill with 2 boost icons. What are your thoughts here, Steve?
Yeah, so this is we'll start with the boost again first, because I think it's the it's very nice to get a surprise. That's another spot where maybe you're going to chump block, and now suddenly you've got overkill coming at you. So you gotta watch for that. The set does not really want you to chump block based on the side scheme and all these boost effects and these high boost numbers when this comes up. So that's really nice as to see a little bit of a whoa, hey, what just happened? Overkill. There goes my minion, and now I'm taking damage too. So that's fun. I like that. And then the when revealed, so there's that cycling, right? So you're going to discard 5 cards, and if it just stopped right there, even that's not a terrible effect as we've seen with Electro, right? Where he's constantly burning through cards, or even Claw. So that's going to move you towards an acceleration token and the villain's win condition. But then you're going to take every card that you find that belongs to this set, and you're going to end up getting it dealt to you. So it could be none, right? You could look out and not have any, but you could draw 2 or 3 and get a couple more cards coming at you. So it's going to kind of dig for Ronan's side scheme, or for the accused. I like it. I think it's a fun card.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, whichever way you look at it, really. It can be quite nasty if the variance is against you. But, if there's a few of the cards either in play or in the discard already, you can feel a bit more comfortable that you're probably not going to draw as many of them from the deck. But given this is 7 cards being added to a deck of 25 to 30, like your chances are kind of, you might see 1, I guess, on average. But the boostability, I think, is kind of what ties it all together, in that it presents a really strong threat of the villain activating. And I think that's what this module set does overall, is that villain activations become more premium. And as a result of that, if you can stun or confuse the villain, like, there is slight additional value against this modular set.
Yeah. With this boost, maybe you are the accused, so the villain's got a +1 already, so you're getting hit for even more. It works well. Every card kind of works nice with every other card. They're all coming out. They're all doing something, no matter what, if it's an encounter card or a boost card. They're trying to get each other's cards out. They interact with one another. So that's really nice.
Yeah. It's quite cohesive. And for a print and play product especially, I'm very impressed with what they've given, because it seems like there was a lot of thought behind the design of each card included.
Yeah, that's a good point too, because they could have sort of phoned it in. Here's some free stuff, whatever. But it adds difficulty. It's fun. There's choices. I think the art looks great on all of them, and it's got that neat blue. They kind of are consistent with that. It's a cohesive set, especially for the money you paid for it.
Yep, and I guess, just to round out the discussion, is there a particular scenario or scenarios that you like adding this modular set to, or when do you like to see this be a part of your Marvel Champions experience?
I think the easy answer is to say, you put it in Claw, right? Claw's drawing 2 encounter cards when he attacks. You're going to see all these boost icons, boost effects that much quicker. But I think it can fit into Rhino even, and level up that experience with Rhino, make that more difficult, because if you get him out, you've got this hard-hitting minion who does just as much damage as Rhino, and that's obviously your easiest one. I'd love to be able to put him in something like Wrecking Crew, but that doesn't work. But I don't know. He kind of goes into any of the villains we have now. I'm curious how it'll work when we get even more the Hydra ones, and we'll just have so many more encounters to play against.
Yeah, it's interesting to think how much one modular set kind of transforms the landscape of gameplay. Because we basically got 5 additional experiences out of just, a 7-card set. And then with Rise of Red Skull and Kang, we're getting, a certain amount of modular sets that then will extrapolate that even further. And so you really will be able to just mix and match and have a great time regardless. But I think I'd like to think that this print and play set's probably going to remain in the back of a lot of people's minds. And I think it's a really good modular set to include if you're looking for that little bit of an additional challenge in your games.
Yeah, I agree. I think too. I think since every card has like a boost effect, which effectively says put it into play for the most part, you could even add this on top of a set where as an extra encounter set, right? Where you've already put one in the suggested set and you add this one because if it does come up as a boost, it's coming out. So and it's searching through the deck, so it's burning through a little bit. So I don't think it slows down an encounter set too much by adding it as your second modular set, so to speak.
Yeah, it's probably making it so that it's like 1.5. Like, like if we're doing rough math, it's like a 1. Yeah, so like the deck's been slightly thickened, but probably not to the extent that other modular sets would make it so. All right. Yeah. Do you have? Hang on, I'll start again. Well, Steve, that's the wrap up of the modular set. Do you have any closing thoughts about this modular set or anything you wanted to talk about?
No, I think we've said everything we need to say about this. I mean, in general, I like this set. I think it's extra difficulty. It's a lot of fun. I hope they give us additional print and play sets for other times. It gives me some hope that maybe at an organized play event, we might see some sort of bonus modular set instead of just alternate card art. Maybe a year or two from now, and we actually have organized play events. You could actually get a set like this, not just print and play, but an actual set as part of the swag. That'd be cool. So I'm happy with what FFG has done with this.
Yeah, I am too. I think it's positive all around, and like you, I'd love to see some more in the future. It would be interesting to see what their organized play structure is for this game. We still kind of haven't seen exactly what their plan is. Like, part of me had this theory that the Green Goblin playmat one that never came out, part of me secretly hoped that there was a Goblin modular set that came with that, because one of the things I don't like about Mutagen Formula is that there's no way to load in even more goblins into the scenario. So that was my what do you call it, pipe dream. But yeah, maybe in 2021 we see what organized play for Marvel Champions looks like.
Yeah, we never really got going with it, right? So
yeah, the print and play is probably the closest we've had, and it was a positive experience. So I'm sure whatever they're doing, that it'll be greatly received by the community. And the launch stuff was great. I guess for an introduction to what the game was, and you got those comic art sort of things. But I agree with you that things like modular sets or even just environments that shake up a scenario could go a really long way to getting people back into stores. And so, yeah, hopefully we see that plan implemented in 2021. It's probably when that will happen, I presume.
Yeah, my ultimate hope would be for something like they did with Arkham with the Blob, where you could have like Galactus, where you have epic multiplayer, 4 games, everybody's doing damage to the same villain. They've got so much open space where they've done with Arkham and Lord of the Rings with their epic play. This game seems perfect to get into that sort of thing too down the road once they've kind of settled in and we've got more cards and the couple years behind us. So hopefully, fingers crossed.
Yeah, we'll have to see, because they did say that OP might recommence in September. I doubt it, but I think they'll probably have an update for us next month. Yeah, so it'd be cool to see what's coming in the future for that. But outside of that, thanks for coming on board to talk about the print and play. And I'm looking forward to hearing all your latest episodes about the Rise of Red Skull once that comes out. And yeah, it's been great to have you on, Steve. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me on. It's been a pleasure. You guys do a great show. Keep it up. I'm really loving the new stuff too that you guys are putting out. So keep at it. Thanks for having me.
No worries. Yeah. And just do you want to just remind listeners again where they can find Critical Encounters?
Yep, you can find us Critical Encounters on Facebook. You can find Critical Encounters. We have a spot on the Marvel Champions Monthly Discord. And really, if you just Google Critical Encounters .listen.com, you can find our podcast episodes, and we're on pretty much every podcast player out there if you do a search for us. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, so check out Critical Encounters on your podcast app of choice. And thank you once again for having me on, Steve. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.